What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the CrazyFaceUno Podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. What's your story? If you'd like to support the show and help us tell more stories like the one you're about to hear, please visit CrazyFaceUno.com today to purchase items from our online store or to donate. As always, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest today. She's an old friend from our college days, Danielle Owens. Welcome, Danielle.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
I know, I'm excited to catch up. We caught up for a little bit here. We were waiting for the weed eater and the mower to go past. And so if you're listening and you hear a little background noise, we were talking about, it's just life. There's nothing I can do about it. So we're just going to embrace the lawn mowing, weed whacking ambiance behind us.
Yeah, the ambiance. I like it.
Yeah, there we go. Danielle, we were trying to figure it out. It's been like 8 years probably.
Yeah, I think it's been close to 8. Because I graduated in 2012, but I think you graduated before I did. 2010.
But then we saw each other, I think, at Matt's thing. Matt Muljan, his bachelor party thing, or I saw Matt. I know.
Oh yes, yeah. Yeah, because you were still around a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Back in, I'd come back and visit and stuff. So I feel like we ran into each other at some point in time. But we went to good old Bethel College, now Bethel University. What do you think about that?
Yep.
It's weird. I don't know what to say. I feel like I didn't go to Bethel University. I went to Bethel College. So I don't know.
I know, and I don't know how to tell people either. We're like, where'd you go to school? Bethel College. It's Bethel University now.
I know.
I guess it makes them sound more prestigious. I don't really know the purpose behind it, but yeah.
Isn't it have to do with, this is my ignorance to it as well, but I think it has to do with your numbers, the amount of students you have. But I don't know.
Could be.
But I don't even know if that's true because I don't know that maybe it's grown. Maybe there's more people there now.
Maybe. I don't know where they put them because it's such a small campus, but...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Danielle, tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days. I know you have a little girl. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, we have 2 girls.
2 girls, and another one on the way, right?
And a boy on the way.
Ooh.
Coming in January.
Wow. So
we're just a big, full, crazy house of rascals running around.
Yeah.
Little butts everywhere. Yeah. We have a 6-year-old who is in kindergarten and a 3-year-old who will be 4 in February.
Okay.
And she just started preschool this year, and it's going well once she gets there, but the 3 mornings a week to get her there is just torture. She's very introverted and gets overwhelmed. So
yeah.
It's going on one thing, but right now, so I'm staying home with my girls, waiting for this baby to come, getting things ready around the house.
Yeah.
And enjoying some extra space these days because we've been busy.
Yes.
Super busy.
And we've so busy that we've rescheduled this a couple times because you've got a full schedule and 2 girls, 1 on the way. You've got life. Life is a busy thing. I feel busy, and I only have myself and my wife and my little fur baby, Chancey Poo, who's also here. He's my co-host that doesn't get recognized.
Oh, well.
He gets recognized when he starts snoring in the middle of the podcast. I keep little rolled up socks.
I think I heard one episode where that happened.
Yeah. I keep little rolled up socks next to me. So whenever he starts snoring, I just toss him down there and hit him. Wake up, dude.
Get him out of it.
Yeah. We were just talking to you. You recently passed a big exam for physical therapy.
Yes. So small backstory is that my husband finished physical therapy school himself in 2017. And while he was in school, we had already, maybe I should just go back to 2012. This will make more sense.
All right, let's do it.
2012, graduated from college,
okay,
which is where we met, in the dining commons. So romantic. Ooh. And then in 2012, we graduated, and 2 weeks later, we got married.
Yeah.
We moved to Southwest Michigan, and then in September, we've been married for 4 months. Surprise, we're pregnant.
Yeah.
So we started our family a little earlier than we had planned, and it was fine. We just adjusted, and then Matt started physical therapy school. It would have been in 2014.
Okay.
So while he was in school, we lived on his parents' property. They had a rental house. They let us stay there. We were so thankful. I was able to work part-time to pay bills. Grandma helped watch the baby. We then decided at the end of his first year, we want to have more kids, but we don't want them to be like 4 years apart. This physical therapy school is a doctorate program. It's 3 years full-time.
Yeah.
We didn't want to have a huge gap, so we decided, let's grow our family. And then along came Margot shortly after. But I had always thought, I just want to mostly be a stay-at-home mom. I love health and fitness. I could maybe work at a gym part-time.
Sure.
But when Matt was in physical therapy school and he was coming home and, practicing his different therapy techniques and kind of, bouncing ideas off me and studying, I really became interested in the field and started working myself in the therapy office as a rehab technician. So I basically cleaned tables and washed towels and helped people with exercises.
Nice.
So that was what got me interested in physical therapy. So when he graduated from school in 2017, I started physical therapy assistant school in August, so 2 months later. And we chose the PTA route together because of the way the school is set up. I still want to be a mostly stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And the PTA program at University of Indianapolis is 2 nights a week. So I would go to class Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 9:30 p.m. And Matt would be home in time to have the girls. And it was a 2-year program. And I just finished in August and took my license exam in October. And found out I passed. And now I am happily, by choice, unemployed until after this baby comes next spring.
That's awesome. That's so great.
So that's the process.
Yeah.
It was bonkers.
Well, and is there any thought with you, since Matt has his physical therapy license, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you're an assistant, you guys working together, or is that something you're not interested in doing?
So we kind of joke, but kind of serious, would love to, in the future, when kids are gone and out of the house, have a retirement plan, be traveling PTAs. So you can sign on contracts with different companies, and you just kind of get placed into clinics, wherever there's a temporary need, and you only have to work 6 months out of the year. And so there's a lot of flexibility with that, which, you never know what kids are going to do, where they're going to go, if they do college, if they go away. We love the freedom of that. And another big dream that Matt's had since going to the Dominican Republic, it's kind of shifted a bit, but in college with the basketball team, we went to the DR and worked at orphanages and played basketball with kids. He fell in love with the country, and his big dream is to open up a physical therapy clinic, maybe there, but maybe even stateside.
Yeah.
That's just for people who don't have access to physical therapy, who don't have the means to pay for it, and to be able to financially support a clinic like that. So we would love to be able to do, and I don't know if you would call it a non-profit physical therapy office.
Yeah.
So, go to an underserved community, provide physical therapy, care, and that's the big dream. So that's something we probably would work on when, we don't have a 6, a 3, and a newborn.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I just wondered. It seemed like maybe the perfect fit, but some people don't. Some people, it just depends on personalities and whatnot.
Some people do not want to work with their spouse. They'd rather just keep them at home. Yeah.
Yeah, but some people love that.
To work with that.
Yeah, see,
I
I
would
think...
do this not every second of the day because he is the coolest. He
Aww.
probably needs a little space from me because I'm just a little bit needy sometimes. He likes his independence.
I understand. I'm probably the same way with my wife. I'm like, hey, I don't know. I think I would, I don't know. I think I'd want to work with my wife, Dana. I think she'd be,
How long have you guys been married?
just over a year now, but we've been together we were trying to figure this out. I think we've been together. So like I think today was like 2 years ago was our engagement today, actually. But I think we've been together going on.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been married or like been together going on 6 years. I think it'll be like 6 years this January that we've been like together, but just married for just over a year. So.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Coming out of the newlywed stage.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because like we lived together before we got married, and so like, when we got married, it was just like, well, everybody was like, "How's married life?" I'm like, "Well, it's like it's the same as it was before." Like, but
not much has changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so there is a mental shift, or there is a shift, I think, like mentally. I don't know if you felt that like when you got married, but
yeah,
there's
for
like
me, it was like almost like, well, I'm stuck with you now. Like I really am. Obviously, you're not. There are ways to get out of a marriage, but
yeah,
but it just feels different.
Yeah, it feels different. There's like a different feel, and eventually, kind of. But yeah, I don't know. We like, not much changed in our life once we got married. It was just kind of like, yeah, hey, here we are. Like now we've got, we like bought our house like just before, like the year before, or like that year that we had gotten married, and so we've been living there, and yeah, I don't know. It was a seamless transition, but now we're in Florida, which is crazy.
Nice.
I know, yeah. I never foresaw my life, like living in Florida, but it's cool. It's great. I mean, yesterday we went to the beach.
It's gonna be real great this winter compared to where we before, like Minnesota, right?
Yeah. Well, what was that? Sorry, I couldn't quite understand you.
It's going to be a much better winter compared to your previous one.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
In Minnesota before this.
Yes. Yeah. We everybody, that's like the classic thing people say, like, where'd you move from? We're like, Minnesota, and they're like, oh wow, like big change. And I'm like, yes. Like, my wife's from Minnesota, so she was like born and raised there, and I love Minnesota. I love the Twin Cities. They're definitely two of the most underrated like cities, I think, in the country. Like they're up there. Because of the cold weather. Like that's the stigma, or that's like what people think. And don't get me wrong, it is absolutely terrible in the wintertime. Like it's the worst. There are 4 months out of the year that it's just hell, but it's frozen. So it's like like the movie Frozen. What is it, Ursula? I don't know. I'm like talking out of my
Ursula
now.
Elsa.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Little Frozen.
Yeah, but like the summertime, like spring, summer, fall, it's great. It's like a really great place. I mean, there's so much going on, and people like come out. It's literally like hibernation in Minnesota. Like the first sign of, spring, and everybody kind of comes out, and you like peak. You're like, everybody's super close in my neighborhood where we lived, and so like you don't talk to each other, you don't really see each other other than like you shovel snow, and you kind of like nod at each other and like grumble like snow, and then but then you don't really talk to each other. But then comes spring, and then you're like, hey, how's it going? Like we made it, like we did it again.
We did it.
Yeah.
We're doing a really hard thing, getting through winter.
Yeah. It's funny, but yeah, I don't know, it's good. So this will be our first one outside of that. I'm very excited and okay with that. I could do without snow forever. And I enjoy the beach. So what's not to love?
You got everything.
Got everything.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, so kind of the theme or the thing that I've been kind of doing is telling people's story. And I like to start off, kind of knowing a little bit about you, and we've kind of covered that. And then I want to go back in time and like talk about childhood, and then kind of work our way back to present. what would you, or how would you describe your childhood? What was your childhood like?
Well, I don't want to say it was boring, but I would say it was a stereotypical Midwest childhood in Michigan. I grew up in Southwest Michigan, and all my cousins lived in the same town. We all went to the same church together. Battle Creek, if anyone is curious, Cereal City, USA. Kellogg's headquarters is there.
Nice.
I don't recommend. It's not a great tourist location, but that's okay. So just grew up like close with family, close with cousins, close with both sets of grandparents, and summers at the beach, in town with my precious gramps.
Lake Michigan Beach.
No, not Lake Michigan.
Lake Superior. What is it?
Lake Michigan. So I live like an hour from Lake Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So in high school, we would take like Saturday trips to Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
But growing up, my grandpa would cram it was definitely illegal, but cram 8 of us cousins in his minivan, and 3 of us would be laying in the trunk together. As a mom, taking 2 kids to the beach is just the most stressful thing. Because I'm like trying to keep, I'm outnumbered. Now I'm going to be really outnumbered this summer.
Yeah.
And he would take 8 of us.
Isn't that funny?
Kids to the beach. What a man. He was quite a man. So that was my childhood. Lots of playing with cousins, lots of family time. It was good. It was really good.
Yeah. And tell me if you feel this way, but have you ever been to Texas?
One time, because my uncle lives there.
Okay.
And it was a long time ago.
You know how it's like, it's thought of as like the Bible Belt of the United, like that area, like the South, But I feel like Michigan is like the northern Bible Belt. Like I would
agree.
It's very like a very conservative Christian like area.
Totally.
I toured through there with Invisible Children, and so like got to go, but like the churches and the youth groups and the youth like programs were the majority, I feel like, of what we stopped and like got to present at. And I didn't really think about it until we were there. It's just a very, it's like the Bible Belt of the North. I just really believe that.
Yes.
But people don't think of it that way.
Well, I would agree with that. Maybe it's because that's the bubble I grew up in.
Right.
Like youth group. Oh my gosh, that is like the theme of my junior high and high school years. The highlights, really, of it. Summer camp, going with my youth group.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I would say, but maybe it's because I was in that bubble. Maybe if I didn't grow up in that conservative Baptist background, I would view it differently. But
yeah, I just don't hear people really talk about that. But Michigan is a very like there's tons of churches. It's like it's very. So I did my internship in San Antonio, Texas, when I was in college. So at a church down there, and so like I've experienced both, and I feel like there's like a lot of similarities, just different in different areas of the world, North and the South. But yeah, so you spent a lot of time with your family. You told one story there where your grandpa would throw all the kids in. And is there any like stories you think of that like epitomize your childhood, like growing up? Putting you on the spot, I know.
You are putting me on the spot. That's okay. So I have a younger brother who is, I think, 2 years older.
You say you have a younger brother? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I have two younger brothers. One is 2 years younger than I am. The other is 6 years younger than I am. So he was just kind of a tag along. But I lived on the street it was only boys. There were 3 other boys that lived on the street, and so at least in elementary school, all my memories are leaving in the morning. I feel like a really old person saying this, but leaving in the morning, getting on our bikes, cruising around the neighborhood, riding down to the corner store, buying candy from quarters that we stole off of our parents' dresser, and maybe it wasn't total freedom because my parents like, kind of had an idea what was going on. I don't know, but I never felt like, well, don't go past this part and don't go past this road. And
see, I never felt that way either.
Which is, man, I understand the need for boundaries, but I don't feel like I fit in with a lot of the things I'm surrounded by.
Sorry, what was that?
Kids I know aren't even.
It's like a little muffled, Danielle. Sorry, I couldn't quite hear what you said.
Oh, no. Is this any better? Let me see. Okay, is this any better?
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, I just couldn't quite catch what you were saying.
Oh, that's okay. So kind of like shifting to now as a mom and what I let my kids do. I feel like I give them more restrictions than what I have, but I feel like they have a lot more freedom than a lot of the kids that I know.
Yeah.
So I just cherish that my parents allowed me to just take over blocks and blocks of neighborhoods on my bike and just kind of be independent. I mean, I wasn't like 5 years old when I was doing that, but
right. I feel the same way though.
Quite a bit of freedom to play. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I don't know what has shifted. Maybe the internet caused this fearful shift, but
yeah, I think our mainstream media is just like it's all like fear based, and I don't know. Yeah, like just society in general is like this. Like we see so much more nowadays, you know, because of technology. I think we just hear all the bad things, and now everybody's just like, lock it down.
Paranoid.
Yeah, but I know, I agree. I've told, you know, I recently just did a podcast with myself, and I just kind of talked about my childhood. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, man, yeah, like my mom would work, not all the time, you know, she would, I don't know. It wasn't like all day long necessarily, but sometimes. And my dad worked at the church next door because he was a pastor when I was younger, and so it was like just next door. You know, it'd be no different than me being outside and my mom being inside the house. You know, but at the same time, it was like my dad was doing his job, like he was working. You know, like he'd come at lunch and he'd fix me lunch, but like it wasn't like I don't know. It just was like, it seemed like looking back, it seems like I had so much freedom, and maybe I didn't have as much as I thought I did. But, and then even like sixth grade, like I did the same thing. I'd ride my bike around the neighborhood, and, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, like growing up was different.
You definitely have more freedom than they do now, because you've got like this. I don't ever want to ruffle feathers, because everybody parents differently.
Of course.
And whatever works best for you, you do you. But even like having cameras in your kids' bedroom so you can see what they're doing at all times. Okay, granted, when they're babies, yes, that video monitor is sanity, because you can see like, okay, my baby's safe.
Yeah.
But like, it just feels so weird that at any moment I can know exactly what my kid is doing and what is that doing for their development. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost.
It's such a weird.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. It sounds straight. I'm not a parent, you know, so like I have zero, like I can't say anything. Like whatever I say, people, if you disagree with me, that's totally cool. Like I get it. Like I have a dog, and I don't have a camera on him all day long, but I would genuinely be interested in seeing what he does all day. I think he probably sleeps, but the idea of like,
probably pretty boring.
Yeah, but the idea of like, just watching their every move. Like I get protecting them and keeping them safe, but I don't know. I feel like part of growing up, part of being human is like making mistakes, you know? And even if that means you like bump your head and fall down, or I have a scar on my right index finger from when I took a pocket knife and tried to cut the loop on a stuffed animal, and I cut my finger. And,
Perfect, you know, and you learned.
I learned, yeah. I can promise you I didn't do that again. You know, I think I had 2 or 3 stitches in my little finger, and I remember that. But yeah, I don't know. It's like the deeper question is like, well, why did you have a pocket knife when you were like, you know, 9, 8, 9? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, but
because it was cool and fun. You could like chisel sticks with it.
It was like, you know, like the Jesus foot, and it had like a Bible verse on it.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, right? So,
even
like,
better.
back off, people. Like, look at me. No, it's funny. So you grew up with brothers. How did
Two younger brothers.
Yeah, you were the oldest one. How did
I'm the oldest, but they're both. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I was just gonna say, like, how did, like, living with and, like, growing up with brothers, how did that kind of, like, shape who you are today? Or did it?
I think it did because of this. So my parents got divorced when I was in junior high, which anytime parents go through a divorce, like, that's
sucks.
I can't imagine. I mean, it's hard at any age for different reasons because kids you just can't understand. So in junior high, like, especially when you were a girl and you're, like, figuring out boys, it was such a hard thing to go through during what is already a hard life transition for most kids, not everyone, but
yeah.
So because of that, I kind of stepped into this mom role for my brothers, because, like, now that I'm a married person, I can't imagine the hard choice, like, to make that choice, how hard that would be to make that choice knowing this is going to affect your children.
Yeah.
And so it put my mom into a really deep, dark place for a while. And so she just was trying to deal with all of that and she just didn't have the ability. She was still present. She was still a good mom. She still provided for us. But there were a lot of days where I was, like, helping getting my brothers ready, and we were kind of on our own a little bit. So
yeah,
I think now it kind of has heightened my my desire to help every single person in need. I'm like, oh, your kid is really sick. Oh, let me bring you some dinner. Like, I just want to take care of everybody. It's kind of heightened this. I think maybe already a characteristic I had of just being a helper and a nurturer. I think it really heightened that, though, because my brothers were my brothers, but then they also were, like, not my children, but I felt a responsibility over them.
Yeah. Yeah, you wanted to care for them and that caregiving, like, aspect of your life. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go on.
In high school, it was a little different because I was so busy with trying to fill up every minute of my life with an activity and being like, I was the student government vice president, and I played soccer and cross country, and I took piano lessons, and I was super involved in youth group, and I just didn't even. It was like a way of, I enjoyed those activities, but it was also a way to just avoid being at home. And so, more in high school, like, my brothers dealt with it differently than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't tell Mike's story because I don't know, he probably wouldn't care, but he took it a lot harder than I did, I think. And so
your parents divorced?
He wasn't even really available emotionally to help. So in high school, like, we didn't even really connect. Also, you're, like, in high school. Like, who wants to hang out with their little brother in high school? It's like, I became known as Mike's sister because he was so cool. He, like, played football, basketball, and baseball.
Yeah.
And I was Mike's dorky sister. So did the marching band and the student government. And so there was definitely a shift as we got older. And now I feel like I've kind of shifted back to that role of, I just want to take care of them and take care of their problems and be their mom again. But
yeah, it's interesting. I think back at high school, and man, I just kind of described this the other day too to somebody on the podcast. But I just kind of feel like I just didn't have these responsibilities. I didn't have these cares. Like, things have changed so much. Like, now there's responsibilities, like, if I don't take care of something, like, there's fallout, there's consequences to my, like, lack of responsibility. Versus in high school, like, this isn't, like, not saying anything. I'm not saying that what you, like, who you were, it sounds like you maybe took on this role a little bit earlier in life. But my point was, like, in high school, I just didn't have an understanding for, like, responsibility. It's that being naive. It's that being kind of, like, just young and not irresponsible, just, like, a lack of consequences to my actions, you know? And and then as you get older, even college, you know, you get to college, like, man, think of, like, I maybe had like $500 in my bank account when I was in college, maybe.
Oh my gosh, I know.
And like,
how did we do it?
Yeah, and I would go I'd go semester with that. Like, that was what I had for like the year. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. I was just like,
yeah.
Outside of like working, you know, I'd work at the dining commons or whatever in college and stuff, and work, you know, have little odd jobs here and there. But I don't know. It's just like those responsibilities and those things, you just lived on whatever and you made the most of it, and like life went on. And nowadays it's like I feel so much more stress and like anxiety about, man, like, oh, even though we're good now, you know, like my wife and we live comfortably and we're in a good place, but it's just one of those things where you're like, like there's so much greater fallout for the things that you're responsible for. Like we pay for our apartment, we pay for our house, we pay for, you know, our food, we pay, you know, like it's us. It's not dependent upon someone else.
Like
it's us.
Nobody to fall back on.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no cushion below you.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you took on a little bit more responsibility at a little bit younger age, just to kind of help and help your family out and help your brothers out, which is cool. I think it's you know, it's something we all hear. I was an only child, so I didn't really have that to do. You know, I kind of had to deal with those. My parents got a divorce when I was a sophomore in high school. And so I had, you know, fallout from that, and I had, you know, my own emotions, but I had to deal with it on my own. Like, I didn't have anybody else to like worry about either. So I had all these, it's just I had a different childhood, you know, and just a different experience. But I hear it from other people with, you know, that have gone through that at a younger age, and, you know, and have siblings. There's that drive to support and to help and to make sure they're taken care of, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah. What were you? So you've touched on a few different things. So clearly, music and sports were a thing. Were those? Were those interests like around as a child, like when you were young, or when did you start to like become interested in sports and music? And were there other things, or?
Well, I started piano lessons when I was in kindergarten because my sweet grandma played piano, and she has since she's been passed since I was like in 5th grade when she had a massive stroke. But she would play the piano at nursing homes. Like, she loved music, and she loved serving people. I mean, like, her funeral was just full of people who adored her. She was the most wonderful lady. And so she gave me the gift of piano lessons. She was not my teacher, but she funded it for me. Yeah. And so my grandpa would drive me 20 minutes out to my piano lesson before I could drive myself. And so kindergarten through high school, I took piano lessons. Yeah. Much to the dismay of my piano teacher, I did not pursue music in college. She was so sad. In high school, I was in the marching band. I started in 6th grade playing percussion because you had to choose band, orchestra, or choir. And choir was never going to happen because nobody wanted to hear me sing. And my mom and dad were brilliant because, I mean, violin with a 6th grader is just the worst. I mean, just the worst.
Sounds terrible.
So, because I had a background in piano, I could do percussion. I started percussion in 6th grade, and then I was in the drum line in high school, which my parents made me do. They made me join the marching band, and it is where I met one of my best friends that I'm still like the best of friends with, because her mom also made her be in the drum line. So that was a huge part of high school, was marching band. It was so much fun. And then sports started. My first memory is softball. I don't remember when. Sure. And soccer. I think soccer was in 3rd grade, which now is crazy to me because my kids are 6 and 3 and they're both playing soccer.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
It's so crazy.
But you have the background and you have a love for soccer, so I mean that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, they both love playing. They both love playing. And the 3-year-old is not playing in the spring because she doesn't like. She likes playing in the backyard. She does not like playing around 20 other kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more. It's less soccer at that age, and it's more swarm ball.
100%. It's play a bunch of games with a soccer ball. Like,
yeah.
Get your little football across the ocean. Don't let the shark get it. So there's no soccer now. There's real soccer.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
And soccer continued on my whole life, and I played at a school out in Pennsylvania for a year in college before I transferred to Bethel.
Right.
So we have that similarity because you played soccer too, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. You were you were on the varsity team though, right? Girls varsity.
Yeah, but with women, we only had varsity.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess that's what I mean, I was okay, but like I wasn't good enough to be on the varsity team ever. Yeah, but I played 3 years and I ended up dropping. I stopped playing after my junior year. I feel like I kind of burnt myself out my junior year. I was working a job. I was playing soccer and then had way too many credit hours I was taking that semester to there's the weed whacker again.
A little ambiance for you.
Yeah, and that was also the year, that summer going into my junior year, I had chipped a bone in my foot. And so like I came in and I don't know. There's other things that went on there, but I just was like,
Well, also the men's team is just so highly competitive. Like they were playing scrimmages against the Notre Dame team too. So
and competing and doing well. Yeah, our team was really good. Bethel's soccer program just in general has always been kind of the bright star of that, and the basketball team. Matt, your husband knows that, but
yeah,
you guys are both athletes. It's crazy.
We sure were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we enjoyed those things together too, which is why I think Matt is also very into music. Like we play in the worship band together. I played at the home. I did like a little box you sit on and play drums.
Yeah.
And he plays piano and guitar, and sometimes we'll lead and sing. So
cool.
Sports and music are just a big part of our life.
Yeah. Does that spill into your, like, how you raise your kids, and do you? I
think so, and I'm trying not to be crazy aggressive about it. Like with Margot, the 3-year-old, she said she wanted to play soccer, and she's very coordinated and runs pretty athletically for a 3-year-old, but did not have a good experience this fall. So we're like, we're not going to do it in the spring. We're going to give you some time off. Also, we're having another baby, so I really don't want to be lugging 3 kids to the soccer field 3 or 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
We have a piano at home. The girls each have a ukulele.
Mm-hmm.
We don't try and force anything. We just want it to be available.
Yeah.
To see what their interests are. Joy is our 6-year-old, is very into art and crafts and coloring, which is very much how I was growing up.
Cool.
And so we try to have just like random crafty things at home, just things that they want to pursue, because I don't want them to ever feel like they're doing something because mom and dad expect them to do it or because we love it.
Yeah.
I want it to be for them because I'm trying to raise little individuals, not clones of myself.
Yeah. That's like got to be hard though. Is it hard? Like,
it is super hard because I don't want them to play softball, because if you love softball, great. I don't. I think it is the most boring sport.
Really?
Incredibly boring.
See, I love it. I love watching it. I think softball, watching girls softball is way more entertaining than like girls like baseball or anything like that. Like I think it's like a really fun, like fast pitch softball is like a great entertaining like sport to watch.
There's pace to it.
Yeah.
But also they have like tournaments all day on Saturday.
This is true. Yes.
So selfishly I'm like, I don't want
But soccer is the same, especially if they get involved in like a travel league.
Oh, it surely is.
Yeah.
I love soccer and I understand the game and I appreciate like it's more than just kicking a ball and hoping that somebody can get it in the net. So
yeah.
But what I do not look forward to with soccer, if either of them pursue it, is you don't cancel games for crappy weather. You just do it. And I don't look forward to those outside bad weather. We suspect we'll live in the Midwest forever. We'll probably stay in central Indiana.
Yeah.
I don't look forward to those weekends, snowy, rainy, 50-degree weather. I just don't.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think about like, man, when Dan and I we want to have kids someday, and man, it's one of those things where I'm like, shoot, like I really, really want my kids to play sports. Like, I love sports. I think they're character building. I think they, they're there's like all those types of things, and wrestling and soccer, and I want them to try different things. I want them to try and to pick as well, but like, oh, it's so hard for me. I know it's going to be really hard for me to just kind of take a back seat and be like, I support you, go get them, like I want to like, that's going to be really hard for me. I already know, like, I'm like,
there's a mix of it where like Jory had a really rough start to soccer because she's 6 and everybody on her team was 7 and 8 because of how her birthday falls.
Yeah.
This season, she was the youngest one on the team and the smallest. Bless her heart, her knees are like the widest part of her legs. She was just so skinny. So she's not strong. She has no power. She can't run as fast as the big kids. And she really struggled. I mean, she ran off the field crying during her first game because she was so overwhelmed. It was also her first year playing like actual games with the referee and parents sitting on the side and watching.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to quit, and we said, well, no, you chose to do this, so you're going to finish.
Yeah.
So
which is good. I think that's a good life lesson,
You want to do this, you're going to finish it. She wants to do it in the spring? No. Well, she wants to do it in the spring now. So it's kind of like pushing a little bit because, you want them to do hard things and things that are challenging for them. But, like, if you genuinely don't have fun playing soccer and we've tried it for 2 years, like, I'm not
then what's the point? Yeah, I would agree. Like, I wouldn't be that way, like, I get what you're saying.
And there's all kinds of sports that appeal to, there's did you wrestle? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Did you wrestle?
Yeah, that was me. Yep.
That's what I thought. See, so, like, wrestling is it's an independent team sport. It's like cross country. Like, it's independent, but you still have your team.
Yeah.
Whereas soccer, like, or basketball, depending on personalities, there's better fits for different kids. Like,
and I
kind
think
of predict that maybe Margot is an introvert. She might just want to do golf.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, and I, like, for me, like, I played soccer all my life, It was later on in life that I got involved in wrestling. So high school, my freshman year of high school. And I think it's that aspect, to be completely honest, that I'd spent my entire life growing up in team sport, in a team sport soccer, And you're only as good as, the team that you're on. And you can be great and push yourself, and you can be the hardest working person on the team. But if everybody else doesn't have that same mentality, then there it is,
It's miserable.
Yeah, and it can be for sure. And then, so when I got to wrestling in that individual aspect of things, like, I'm no stranger to working hard, and I worked really hard when I was at athletics, not necessarily academically, but like, I worked my tail off, in athletics and in my sports. And so, like, I excelled, especially in wrestling. Like, I picked things up quickly. I think it suited who I am and my, like, character, my personality, and, like, how I learn really well. And then, I put a lot of into it, and I got to excel and succeed in that. And, I've been until I moved here, I was wrestling coach for the last 6 years in Minnesota, and it's,
cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I haven't really done anything with soccer. It was one of those things before we moved, I was really interested in kind of getting involved at the school that I was coaching at and potentially their soccer program, and kind of volunteering or coaching there and just getting back into soccer. I miss it, and I haven't played in a while, and I really enjoy coaching just in general. And so, but I'm taking a little break from coaching. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy. So I decided
you got to find some pickup soccer to play, because I started not currently this past summer because I was pregnant. That's not a good idea, but there was a Sunday night just pickup soccer with people who just live like in the area.
Yeah.
And we're all adults. We're all kind of like the classic washed-up athletes.
Yeah.
And it is the most fun I have ever had playing soccer, I think, in my entire life. It was the highlight of my summer, I guess it would have been last year. And cannot wait to start playing again next summer because it's just for fun. Like, nobody's annoyed if you missed a shot. There's no expectations.
Yeah.
It's pure fun.
Yeah.
You got to find some pickup soccer.
You're right.
Ignite your blood for the game again, I think.
You're right. I do. Yeah. When I was in San Diego, when I lived out in San Diego, California, I joined, like, Balboa Park had these, like, pickup games on Sundays, and I'd go and play, and it was really fun, just like you said. And then I played on some different, like, indoor leagues and whatnot. In Minnesota, people would ask me to come play, but it's still that competitive nature. And I'm telling you, like you said, I'm old and washed up, and I try to go too hard, and my body doesn't respond the way I want it to, and I found myself injured more than I was healthy. So I think that pickup would be.
I'm gonna say to that, you got to get to a physical therapist.
I know, man. If I knew one.
Well, you knew one or two.
Yeah. But yeah, the pickup games are, I think, more my style too. Just less pressure, less competitive, and I'll play to the level of competitiveness that, like, I'm in or surrounded by, And
right. Yep.
People get really competitive, and I also can get really competitive. So.
Oh yeah, match that. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not? But it gets me in trouble these days because my body is old and decrepit. Yeah,
happens to the best of us. Anybody who's older than us is like, oh, please, just stop talking.
Yeah.
Everyone who's like in their late 30s, they're like, oh, stop.
Yeah, I know. Well, and then around here too, like in South Florida, there's such a large population of just different cultures, and a lot of Brazilians around here, so I know that there's pickup soccer games around. I'm sure it shouldn't be hard to find them at all. And
sure.
The different cultural ethnic groups that kind of call this area home from around the world would lead me to believe there's probably a handful of pickup games that I could get involved in. So.
You might not be able to understand them, but that is okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
You're all playing the same game.
It's all good. Yep. That's how you learn, too.
It's true. It's very true.
So as you went into high school, did you play softball in high school, or was it just marching band and soccer and that kind of thing?
In high school, it was soccer, cross country for 2 years.
Oh, cross country.
Because my friends did it. I even got to go to state one year because I was the 7th fast runner on my team, and the top 7 got to go to state.
Look at you.
And nothing will make you more humble than going to state and finishing like 20th from last place.
Hey, but you didn't finish last, so there you go.
But I didn't finish last. No. So that was mostly just because the friends were doing it. I did diving for my freshman year.
Ooh,
I don't
cool.
even know how that. I can't remember what got me into that. But I hit the board once, and then I kind of mentally lost it from there and was like, I'm not doing this ever again.
Yeah, that sounds pretty terrible.
It was blind to me because you like throw yourself over water, and then you stand in the shower for 10 minutes until it's your turn to then throw yourself over the water again without. Yeah, it was not the sport for me. So, but it was mostly soccer. I never had any intention of playing soccer in college. So I just did it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was very competitive. Our team was pretty competitive, but never expected to go past high school.
Yeah. What made you decide to do it in high school?
Do it in high school or in college?
In college, I mean. Sorry, yeah.
In college. Well, I actually had enrolled at Michigan State University. I was in a room with one of my best friends from high school. 2 weeks before we were set to move in, I went on a leadership retreat and a missions trip to Philadelphia with my church missions group. And then the following week, my pastor spoke at this leadership conference at a training school called Bethel College in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. For any Office fans, it is right next to Scranton, Pennsylvania. It is now called Clark Summit University. But
okay.
it is a teeny tiny Baptist church or college. While I was there, I would play pickup soccer in the afternoon off times, and the coach approached me and was like, "Hey, what are your plans for college next year?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to Michigan State in 2 weeks." Like the Michigan State. I was like so snooty about it.
Yeah.
So it was great. If you change your mind, we would love to have you on the team. We don't have athletic scholarships, but I will give you every academic scholarship I can get. And I was like, sold. So 3 weeks later, I started preseason at Baptist Bible College, and we had a really great team. It was a lot of fun. I hated the school, so I left after a year. Because if you think Bethel has rules, wowee, the BBC has rules. And I knew that going in, but I don't think I knew the gravity of it or the pressure to follow the rules and the judgment that would come if you questioned the rules.
Mm.
And so I always say, like, oh, I hated it so much. But pictures come up on your Facebook, and I met so many amazing people that I still talk to.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good parts about it, and it was really formational for my development, I think. Like, I went there for a purpose. I was there for soccer, strictly soccer. I didn't care about school at all.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the rules. I met a group of guys quite similar to the group of guys that I met at Bethel, ironically enough.
Yeah.
Like you and Sammy and Matt, and met some guys like that who really kind of helped shape me and made me, like, question. Like, I've grown up around all these rules, and, like, what's the point of them? And how is this benefiting me? How is this benefiting the world? It was a huge transformational. I mean, if I would have gone to Michigan State, I have no clue where I'd be. I probably would have gone to a lot of parties, that's for sure. But
yeah, isn't it interesting to think back, like look back, like if I was to go back, like there's a big part of me that's like I would not want to go to Bethel College. However, like you said, like there's so many good friendships, and that group of guys that, the Bethel boys, can check out some of our podcasts back a few months ago.
With you.
Yeah. So like Sammy and Tony are two of my best friends. They're just good guys, and Joel and Calvin, Tyler, and Matt, and those guys they're just so huge and such a big part. Jonathan, like those guys are just such a big part of my life, and it's such a big part of who I am today. Derek, and I don't know, like just I feel that, like, as much as I wouldn't want to go back to Bethel College, looking back, it was, like you said, fundamental to who I am today, and fundamental to how I believe and how I think, and it just led me to be the person that I am today, and I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate that a lot. So I don't know, like I don't know that I'd want to go anywhere else at the same time, or it's like those
exactly. And I think there is something to be said about being in places that are uncomfortable.
Yeah. Ooh, good point.
If you're just always around your people who make you feel safe, who believe the same thing you do, or even if they don't, like, they're not a-holes about it. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good point.
Differences. You don't, like, where's the growth in that? So, like, I never knew that I had this internal battle of, like, I don't want to follow that rule, until I got to a place that was like, if you don't pray before your lunch, people are going to look at you and judge you. So I stopped praying before my meals, because I was like, I'm not even praying. I am taking this because I don't want anyone to think bad of me. Well, that's stupid. Like, I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
In a way where I'm just solely doing something for the appraisal of other people. That is so dumb.
Yeah.
Which is why this is a great story for you. I didn't even know this. I shaved my head when I was at that school. I shaved my head.
I think I did, because your hair was like growing back when you came to Bethel, though, right?
Yeah, it was still pretty short, and I think that's actually how I got connected with you guys, because I met what is his name? Yoder.
Michael
Yoder? I can't remember his first name.
Michael?
Yeah, Michael Yoder, and I met him somehow, all these circles, like, Angie, I met Angie through this person, that person, we all got connected through the tiny circles of Bethel. But Michael Yoder was like, oh, man, you got to hang out with these guys. You shake your head. Why? Like, these will be your people.
It's funny. It's funny that that's, like, the thought, like, I don't know, like, you don't think about those things when you're in college of, like, how people, like, perceive you, And it's funny that was, like, our group of people was known for that. I don't know, like, what, like, I don't even know what that is necessarily, but, like, known to, like, I don't know, challenge the status quo,
not
or
fitting into the expectations of what basically in a nutshell, what a Christian is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And how they're supposed to act, because, man, there are a lot of great people at that college in Pennsylvania, and there were a lot of people who made me go, these people are not bringing anyone to Jesus by how they're acting.
Yeah.
And if that's what their goal is, yikes! Like, we are in trouble. If this is how we keep people, with the end goal being like, meet my Jesus, meet my God. I don't have anything to do with any of that. So,
well, life is like, I don't know, authenticity and being genuine has always been something that's been really important to me, and I think that's really epitomizes that idea. Kind of epitomizes, like, at least our group of friends. I would include you in that. Like, you were part of that group of friends. And
we went to Chicago, and we went to the final exam, and I had a speeding ticket at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I had $100 in my bank account, and I got pulled over, and the guy was just so rude. Yeah. Like, can I afford to go to Chicago and be homeless for a week to, like, raise awareness about people who are being kidnapped in Uganda?
Yeah.
If that situation had been offered to you now, I would be like, heavens no, but let me give you $50.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
That was in Tom's and doing barefoot day when it was, like, raining and 50 degrees out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Good old days.
Those were, the good old days for sure. And it's just interesting. Like, it's just cool to, like, think back at those times and those groups of people that we got to spend time with. And even as much as I didn't realize it necessarily, but as much as we, like, challenge the people around us, like, we challenge each other inside, like, that's the part that I remember is, like, man, the debates and the conversations that we would have just together of, like, I've told the story 100 times, but that's, like, Derek questioning me, like, well, why do you believe that? And, like, kind of started me down the road of, like, what do I believe? Like, oh man, I believe that because that's just what I've known. Like, that's what my parents told me. That's how I grew up, and versus, like, actually knowing what I believed and kind of figuring that out. And it's just an interesting process that I think everybody kind of experiences, that, like, coming of age, like, figuring out who you are and figuring out what you believe and what and whatnot. But I think, and maybe it's just our types of personality, like yours and mine and our group, but when you go to a very strict school, and Bethel had a lot of rules. Like, we had, if you've listened to the podcast with Becky, if you're listening, and you've listened to Becky Jaworski's podcast, we kind of talked about it a lot on there. And she had a different experience, maybe more of an experience that you had, Danielle, at your other school. She had that experience at Bethel. She didn't feel like she fit in. She felt that judgment and a lot at Bethel, and she left and went to Chicago and went to school there and found her people. And I know, and that's the funny thing, right? Like, but I think that kind of speaks to maybe the environment that some of the Bethel environment kind of brings out, is this, like, you don't know who you can trust.
That is very true.
You just don't know who you can trust to be yourself.
Do you have a beer sometimes? And you're 21, and you're, like, scared to ask somebody, so do you, like, want to go to the Irish, whatever that, I don't know what the Irish place for, like, live music? Like, are you going to tell on you if I get a beer?
What was that?
You're, like, asking people that you just met. Like, you're 21, and you're asking, are you going to tell on me if I have a beer? It's
yeah.
such a weird
Yeah.
But then, like, I totally could fit in with those people who were, like, following the rules because I think because I can relate to them, and
Yeah.
like I grew up in this environment with this mindset, and maybe we have like that the rules don't bother them, and they feel safe with the rules, and that's fine. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm kind of a people pleaser too, so
I know.
I never want to ruffle anybody's feathers.
Yeah, I'm
and
with you there.
Free and like myself with the people who were doing those challenging things of like living in, you know, like you guys have that house. I don't know if you actually live there, but I live there all the time. That house where you're like in the community, and that Parker, whatever the church was that you went to, was like just a whole different kind of church than I had ever experienced before. And I just really appreciate those memories. And grown up Danielle needs to revisit college Danielle, and maybe it's a good challenge. Like there are more things I can do just because I'm a mom living in a subdivision on the west side of Indianapolis. Like there are ways I can still be kind of radical. So
yeah, well, and me kind of creating and starting, you know, CrazyFaceUno, and this has been me kind of realizing some of that as well, Danielle. I for a long time, you know, I would just telling my wife like, man, I'm such a different person. Like, why don't I like? It's not that I don't want to help people, but I'm not. So why am I not? Why do I not feel like motivated to do that? Like that was such a huge thing that was like a massive part of my life for so long. And like, why am I not doing more of that? Like, what is it like, what's going on? And kind of just asking those questions, and kind of asking the question of like, how can I get back into that and still be who I am today? You know, like I've changed and I have grown, and I have like, I am an adult now, and you know, I do think through a different lens than I did in college. And maybe I'm not going to be jumping on a packed car full of people going to Chicago to sleep in the street to, you know, or surround Oprah's studio to, you know, raise awareness for a warlord that did a bunch of crazy things. But, you know, like I can still find my way of giving back and helping people and doing good and making a difference. And I realized that I made it into this thing where that was my idea of what it meant to do good and make a difference, right? To go to these extremes when I think that society today, we forget that like saying hi, saying thank you, smiling, you know, treating people with kindness and these like little simple things that doesn't take you completely going outside of your comfort zone to make a big impact in the world. Not saying that you shouldn't every once in a while, not saying that that's not important, that isn't something that, you know, you should incorporate into your life. Because I think that, you know, life's a balance. And so when you can find those balances of like, you know what, this is something that I care a lot about, and I'm going to stand up for this, you know, and then maybe it's just the other is, hey, you'd return the cart to the grocery store because they don't have a cart return, or you know what I mean. There's such simple things.
Yeah, little things like we had leftovers sitting in our car when we were in Michigan visiting family, and I had the girls with me, and I was in a forest, and there was a guy who was sitting on the road with a sign saying he was homeless, and I knew that the girls were not going to eat their leftover pizza. Was it a farming course meal? No, but the thought just like quickly passed through me, and I let it go, and we drove away, and I was like, what? Why did I miss that opportunity? So I said to Tori, 6-year-old, because she can understand, there was a man who needed some food. We are going back and we are helping him. And it lit her up. I like saw college Danielle in her and was like, dang, I cannot ignore those thoughts when they come to like,
trust your gut in so many ways.
I've got some mittens in my coat, and like have stuff in my car where that can be something. And now I'm teaching her to like look at other people, look at the environment, stop staring at yourself and what your current needs are, because dang, we are so blessed. Like, we don't have a cushion to fall back on like we did in college. Mom and Dad, I spent all my money going to Chicago.
But we're so blessed. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, we have so much. And if I can give a homeless person an apple, I mean, that guy almost started crying. He was so thankful. And Tori was like, well, we gotta go back and get him some water and see him again. We gotta make sure we have food in our car. And I'm like, oh, sweetheart, we don't live here, so we're probably never see him again.
But that's awesome. But now she's thinking about that, you know.
A woman has a baby. Take him some dinner.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go hold her baby, for goodness sake, you better take him some food.
Yeah.
I did not know this before I had kids, so this is a word to your people. Take your mom's food. They need it.
Cool. Yeah, good to know. But it's the simple things, right? I mean, like, if you know,
very simple.
Hey, like, and see, those are the things that I grew up with. But I think these are my religious roots that I don't hold as closely. You know, like, obviously my religious views have changed, Danielle, as you probably listened to some of my podcasts, but it's still foundational to who I am, you know. And something I've been thinking a lot about lately has been how, like, you know, how there's different groups of people where you're like, you can be Jewish, but not like the religious side of Jewish. It's like a community. It's like a group. And like, I feel like that's very much who I am, you know, like I'm a Christian in the sense of like, man, this is my community. This is how I grew up. When my dad was a pastor growing up, my mom was, you know, a pastor's wife. And there's always so-and-so, you know, was in the hospital. We're going to take them, you know, my mom would make like a pan of lasagna and take over to like their house, you know, and it was those acts of being like, hey, we're going to fill that gap. We're going to find that need that like, oh, so-and-so. And you don't think about them as these like monumental things when you grow up. But then when you look back, you're like, oh, that's maybe why I think about that whenever I see somebody that's sick or, you know, like somebody needs help. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to fix them some food and take over there because you had that example. Or the homeless, you know, like that was something that you were a part of as well. You know, we were all contributed to in
taking our
South Bend.
leftover meal swipes, taking those meal swipes.
Yeah, causing all sorts of ruckus, you know, with the school and doing that. But yeah, we'd take those sandwiches and we had leftover meal swipes at the end of the, you know, the month or whatever. And, you know, it was just encouraging people like, hey, get an extra sandwich. And we'll put it in a cooler and we're going to take it downtown, South Bend, and hand them out and give people that are on the street, you know, a meal. So, and it was just something simple, you know, it's like it didn't cost anybody anything because it was just a meal that was going to get wasted and a swipe that was going to get wasted. And I don't know, just thinking outside of the box and thinking about how you can make a difference. It doesn't have to be this big monumental thing. It just doesn't.
Totally.
And making that easy and accessible, I think. And if we can start to think about those different ways that we can make a difference and do good and just our world around us, the community, you know, and I like to say the local and global community because I think they're one and the same, but I like to differentiate them, showing that they're the same. Our local community is the people that are around you, but our global community, it's still a community and we're still responsible for the people around the world, you know, each and every one of us. And I don't know, I love that. I love thinking about just the simple ways of making a difference and doing good in the world. And I think we all have that within us, and it feels good, you know, like it feels great to when you like do something kind for someone and you do something that like someone appreciates. Like it's not just the other person that gets the like smile out of it and gets that like warm heart. It's like you get it as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all about your intentions and like having good intentions when doing it. It can't, you know, I think you got to check yourself with that, but I think it's important. I don't know.
Yep, I would agree. And if you ever feel like it's insignificant, think about how you would feel on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Because we've been on the receiving end of, you know, we've had 2 kids. People have brought us meals. We went through a miscarriage before this baby, and people brought us meals for that. Like our women, my tribe.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I needed that, and they brought it, and it was just a meal. It was just a meal, but it was not just a meal. It's like it's a tangible way of saying, I see you. I see the struggle you're in, or the situation you're in. I can't fix this, but I can be in it with you. It's more than just food. I mean, for someone going through a hard time or a loss, or someone who's on the street, or whatever it is, giving kids backpacks, or that's what I love about our church. Like, just not a plug for it, but it's why we chose the church that we go to every month.
Yeah.
We find a local organization that we rally together and we give. So this month we're collecting boys' coats. I don't know what the organization is.
Yeah.
But then we have stock a pantry in January. And
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
It's not like going to across the world, which, there are people who do that, and we need people to do that, to build houses, but, like, you can build
make
a
big, exactly.
Make a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know what your actions and how they, like, are going to stick out to someone, and think about, like, you know, that story that you just told with your daughter, you know, like, one day she might be telling that exact same story. Like, I remember the first time, like, I, you know, like, thought about a homeless person, and it was my mom. She, like, made us go back and, like, give my leftover pizza, you know, like, legitimately, that could be an impactful story that she remembers for the rest of her life. And it's those insignificant things, like, seemingly insignificant in the moment. It's not like this monumental thing other than, like, hey, that's something we should do, and we got to do that. But you just don't know how it's going to impact someone for the rest of their life. And you never know. Maybe that was what that person needed to see, that there was hope in humanity, and keep going and persevere. And
totally.
You just never know. You just never know.
Now I want to go, like, find somebody to go bless with something. Sitting at the grocery store, maybe I'll grab an extra bag of apples or something.
There you go.
We're all fired up. Like, who can I bless today?
Yeah, for sure. Danielle, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things we could talk about, but I feel like we're in a good spot to wrap up. And what would you is there anything you want to say, or, you know, tell our audience before we go? Any plugs? Plug away. I know you've got some, like, hair product stuff that you're doing, right?
Oh, I do sell shampoo.
Ooh.
I totally do sell shampoo.
Plug it.
I started this crazy, I said I would never be in a direct sales company. I'll support my friends who do it. And then I used the products, and I was like, oh, these are the bomb. And then I saw the comp plan, and I was like, oh, this is the bomb. So, yes, I do sell shampoo and skincare with Bonnet. So,
cool.
If you link my Instagram, that's how people can connect to me.
Okay, cool. I will.
Beyond just that, though, like, I love the company because, again, it is in alignment with, like, my values, and I know what you value of, like, doing good. Like, they have great products, but they have a whole gratitude division. Like, we just went to Columbus for the annual convention, and we collectively, as a group and a company, donated, like, $8,000 to local, like, the Boys and Girls Program and a food bank there, because Ohio has a huge, they call it, like, a food desert, but they have a pretty high rate of kids who are hungry, who are not getting enough food. And so, like, as a company, they gave to that, which I really love. Like, I don't want to just make money, but I want to work for someone who has a similar, you know,
values,
alignment of goals and values. So, so I still should do with money. And my biggest thing, I'm just on this big kick right now. As a mom, I went back to school because I felt like I was losing my personhood to motherhood. And it is so easy, especially with all the expectations that we don't even probably need to put on ourselves or on other women. And this is just people in general. Expectations are just the worst.
Yes. They lead to disappointment.
These expectations are like, well, if you're a mom, like, these are the things that make you a good mom, or, like, if you're a working mom, you know, like, it's a really weird world to be in. And when I stayed home full time, I was like, dang, I gotta go to work a little bit. I mostly want to be a mom, and I want to work a little bit. So I feel like I'm trying to be more vocal about it and challenging at least the people close to me, my friends, of, especially if you're a mom, or if you're in a position where you're like, what I'm doing right now does not align with who I want to be or with what I believe, then get out of it. Life is way too short to just sit in a role or a position that's comfortable, or to be in a position because people expect you to be there. Like, I know there's some people who are not happy that I went back to school. Like, well, what about your kids? Oh, what about my kids who are seeing their mom, like, pursue her dreams and work really hard for something?
Preach.
Like, what about that?
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So that is my big soapbox at the moment of, do not let other people's expectations or opinions stop you from doing what you think is right or good for you and what is going to give you the most fulfilling life, not for yourself, but because so you can do what you were made to do. Like if you're a mom and you're drowning because you have little kids, that's part of it. Like you just kind of get out of that season of life.
Yeah.
But if there's something that you can step into while you're still being a mom, you're not neglecting your kids. You are filling yourself up, and you're being a better mom by taking care of yourself. So I'm getting all riled up about it because I just feel so sad when I see women like tired and grumpy and like just so sad. Because what are you going to do when your kids are gone? You're going to have your husband and yourself, or maybe not your husband. At least for me, I'm going to have my husband and myself.
Yeah.
So then what? I'm going to have this crisis. I'm going to have a crisis. I don't want my kids to move out because I love them so much. But, you know, I don't want to wait until my kids are gone to start becoming myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's
absolutely my last battle cry of go pursue your passions, people. Life is too short.
Absolutely.
Life is way too short.
I love that. Thank you for saying that because it's so true. And what other people like, and check yourself. If you find yourself being that person that's like looking down upon someone or questioning those things, understand that like it's okay for other people to think differently than you do. And you can still love that person. You can still disagree with them. You can have your opinion. Your opinion is valid. Your opinion's okay. But like, check yourself. Just understand that, like, you know, empower people and lift them up. Empower, love, and celebrate. That's what we're all about here at CrazyFaceUno. So find ways to empower, love, and celebrate versus putting people down and judging them and putting them into a box that isn't necessarily their box to be in.
Yeah, it's not good for them, and it's not good for you. Like, why do you want to live with yourself every day, judging what other people are doing?
Yep.
Like, worry about yourself.
Yep. Preach. I love it. Danielle.
It was so good to catch up.
Yeah,
it's
so great to talk to you.
Be forced to reminisce the old radical head shaved smoking on a mountain Danielle.
I love it. But seriously, it's so good. It's like, it's good to think about those things and to go back. And, you know, that's one of the reasons that I love the podcast, because what other avenue do you have of like, you're not going to just sit down and talk about those things for an hour and a half with your friends or whatnot generally. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of like talk about yourself and think about life. And I don't know. I think it's good.
I love it. Well, I love what you're doing. I really love Yanni's, Jonathan, I guess technically, but I call him Yanni. I love Yanni's episode. I like just what he's doing
so
in the order. Like, I wrote all that down. I'm like, okay, our church is going to do something for this next month.
I love what he's doing. They're really crushing it over there too, and I'm excited for what they're doing and what they're creating and how they're tackling an issue that's important to them and important to the world. It's important for all of us to just understand the world better.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Shane.
Appreciate it.
It was such a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You.
All right, I'm going to close things out. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show today, visit us on Facebook and Instagram. Like and comment on the post. If you want to go above and beyond, get the word out and share the Crazy Face Uno with your friends and family, or just to random strangers on the street. We welcome everyone. Please visit CrazyFaceUno.com to buy our merchandise and to donate. Your contribution helps us share more stories like Danielle's and stories just like yours. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. We love you all. Thanks again for listening. Peace!